4 episodes I've been waffling on about a single thing, and I think I've just come up with a good example. But I don't want to delete all those other episodes, because even when I'm rambling and bumbling along or something, the act of bumbling, I think, introduces the nuance that most topics need. Strangely, I think it's good to say and yet, when I weigh these things up, I don't know, yeah, maybe not, all that sort of stuff. You know, like all that stuff. When I speak like that, you're almost tempted to say, just do the episode again. And now that you know what you want to say it straight without the ums and the ahs and maybe this, maybe that. Here's a good example. Oh, no, it isn't. I just thought of a better one. Yeah? Instead of doing all that, do that episode, but then delete it and then do it again properly. But I think the act of saying and ah and being unsure of yourself and all that stuff gives an idea, the nuance that it needs. It's just that you won't have any listeners, you won't have any viewers. That's the only problem. But so what? All right. And I just come up with a great example of for what I've been saying in these last few episodes. And what I've been saying in these last few episodes, that I think all philosophers are evil and that everybody's a philosopher. Except for the occasional complete numbskull. So I think everybody, I can't prove it. But I can't prove anything. I can't even prove I exist. I can't prove you exist. And I'm told I can't even prove I exist. Even though I'm thinking. All right. The example is an uncomfortable one, but sometimes the uncomfortable examples have the most potency. Child brides. You get that 50-year-old blokes, you know, in arranged marriages with, I don't know, 12-year-olds or whatever. And this is a bad thing in my culture and in my head. Right. Absolutely, unquestioningly a bad thing. It has to stop now. So, I think it's a good example of what I'm saying. So let's imagine I'm on Q&A. This is why I think all philosophers are evil, because I think the average thinking person cannot help him or herself challenging a proposition even when that proposition should not be challenged. Should not, morally at least, be challenged. But we can't help challenging everything we hear. It's part of the way our brains work. And that's what makes humans evil. All right, so child brides, that's a really nice, easy one. That's got to stop, you know. That whole business, especially when it's coupled with this business of the man in that marriage having total rights over that girl, for example. Right, so I'm on Q&A, the ABC, on TV, and someone says, that's just got to stop. You know, it's got to be illegal to marry a girl, and let's make it I don't know what the law is. Pretty sure you can't marry a girl that's 15 or 16. I don't know what the rules are. It really doesn't matter. All right, 15-year-old. It's got to stop, says someone on the panel. This business of marriage of older men to 15-year-olds. It's got to stop, and it's got to stop now. Now, someone in the audience then puts their hand up for the microphone and says, I agree with you. However, I can't agree that it has to stop now. It's not easy to stop this in some countries without causing more harm than would be caused if you didn't stop it. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but imagine it is true. The person, I think the person who challenged that proposition would be seen as the act of challenging that proposition would be seen as a bad thing, I think. So, I could be wrong, but I think so. But here's where you're evil on the inside then, because you would challenge it anyway in your head. Because as soon as someone utters an idea like that, even if you agree with it, you sort of think in your head, thinking, well, now, what in reality, what would happen if you did do that? Now, first you'd need to put a dictator in place in every country where this happens. You'd think about the mechanics of it and you'd say, okay, no, I don't agree with the proposition that it has to be stamped out now, because the sledgehammer you would have to actually ride roughshod over the sovereignty of every country that does this. You would actually have to send an army in. I might start thinking like that, but the proposition was it has to be stopped now. So I think this is where you enter into an internal dialogue when someone makes a proposition like that, and even if you agree that you wish you even if you want it to stop now, the fact that you're debating it in your own head makes you evil. Because, and that's a kind of Catholic thing, if it's evil to say it, it's evil to think it, sort of thing. And I think everyone does it. I like the same-sex marriage one too. So, no, not that one. That one. So you get someone who, let's say, is in a same-sex relationship and wants to get married to his partner, okay? But he's living in a country where, if it was legalized, he would get his partner killed, and himself as well, and he probably doesn't care for himself, but he doesn't want to get his partner killed because he loves him. All right, so the proposition is put up to this person, and this person is visiting Australia, and the man he loves is in a country. Is it illegal in Saudi? Probably. All right, same-sex marriage. I'm not sure, but if it's not there, then pick another country. All right. Now, this guy is visiting Australia, and he loves his man, and his man is back in Iraq, and on the panel they say same-sex marriage should happen now. And this guy's in the audience and he says, oh, can I just challenge that? Now, instantly, is this guy being a bad guy? Because he says, yes, not where I come from, not just yet. It's a process. It might take years. Now, even if you're a proponent of same-sex marriage, as I am, would I hear the guy out? And if the answer is yes, because he's from Saudi, the point is, when someone uttered those words, the brain inside your head goes tick, 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 and tries to challenge what one is hearing, because that's part of being a thinking thing. I think, therefore I am. Even if an evil demon is putting thoughts in my head, I'm still having the thoughts. And so I am to that level, at least. a thing, a thinking thing. When someone utters a phrase like that, same-sex marriage has to happen now. Immediately, if you're a thinking thing, you start to think, you start to challenge this, You mean only in Australia, don't you? Every territory and every state immediately? Tomorrow, are there any logistical issues, Could anyone get killed as a result of you doing this? Because we have big communities in Australia. Because the call went up during the same-sex marriage debate that the act of challenging same-sex marriage, having the debate at all, could cause some people to commit suicide. Because it's very traumatic to listen to that debate. People arguing the other way. But then there might be communities in Australia where, and this is not a good example for Australia, but there might be people in Australia where, young people and all that sort of stuff, they might get killed if you do put same-sex marriage in place. But then again, in Australia, I see the fact that people might get hurt or even killed is not necessarily a reason to not debate, is it? I think there's no way around it. I think no matter what proposition is put forward to you, you have to challenge it, because you can't not. In your head at least, and probably with a couple of close friends, and there's no way around it. So even propositions that are put to you that you simply can't argue against on Twitter, for example, you have to in your head. So I think everyone has a secret life of philosophy that's going on in their head, no matter what they're putting on Twitter as being their opinions. They're faking it. I think everyone's faking the extent to which they are certain about things, and to the extent to which they are backing everything. Because a lot of people come across as being absolutely certain about all the major right things. In the expression of their opinions. But I think a lot of people challenge those things which they claim they are black and white on, and I think in their own head people turn them around and weigh all these things up, and to that extent they're having an internal debate that they would never have in public. And to that extent, if the things that are going on in your head when you challenge right ideas would be judged evil if you're having them in the open, to what extent are they evil if they're happening in your own head, or if you're discussing them with your close friends or anything like that? And the proof of that would be is if you were, you lock all the doors and everything, and you get together with a few friends and all that sort of thing, you debate something that shouldn't be debated. You challenge something. If someone were to secretly record that, which people do sometimes, like let's say before DNA was invented or discovered, if you were to have a debate with your wife as to whether people from other continents other than your own, were of the same species as you, or whether they were a different species, would that be an evil thing to debate? Now, we know that everyone's the same species now because we've got DNA, but I'm talking about before that. Someone says, we are all one. They say this before 1950 something or whatever it was. So someone back in 1946 says, I think all people on Earth are all exactly the same species, so to speak. Now, if you were at home and you were chatting to your wife and you said, I wonder if that's true. And if it was true, how would you prove it? I think it's true, but there's room for doubt, isn't there? Wifekins? Your wife might say, well, just go and wash the dishes, will you? You're always banging on about this sort of stuff. Just wash the dishes. But the point is, you could get divorced then, and she's recorded you on an old-fashioned recording device, tape recorder, and then you get divorced, and then she leaks that, and you're actually the Prime Minister. But I don't think it was evil to actually have that debate with your wife. It's just a bit stupid, really. And to the extent that you were stupid, you were actually being evil for having the thought in the first place. But you were being very, very human, and there was no two ways around it. You had to challenge that idea. That, for example, people from France, you had to challenge whether they were actually even the same sort of ape that you are. There's no two ways around it. You can't avoid it.